We're back. We're back here with another edition of Interludes Extra Presents Talk on Tuesdays. Well, while I was in and away with family, we got a chance to see not the original stream of Luther Vandross, Never Too Much, but I found out that this documentary premiered at the Sundance Film Festival last year in 2024. It got released at theaters in the summertime, and now it's streaming currently on CNN. I don't know if you guys are fans of Luther Vandross, but I know I am. And he unfortunately passed away due to complications with his stroke that he had in 2003. The following 2 years, he ended up leaving us. But just some of the things that I learned during this documentary was just phenomenal. And when I say phenomenal, I mean just great. I was totally blown away by what I learned during this. Now, it was a lot of interviews with the musicians that worked with him, and also a lot of the two or three consistent background singers that work with him as well. I don't know if you guys are fans, but he did a lot of jingle work and singing in the background. And I was like, I didn't know that. But here's the thing. Luther was building his career when I was a little tot. I was a little tiny person. And so, but Luther Vandross was someone that was just a phenomenal singer and could pretty much sing anybody underneath anything. He sang background for the likes of Bette Midler, David Bowie, Patti LaBelle, and most notably Roberta Flack. He went on tour with Roberta Flack, and one of the scenes is in there about how Roberta Flack told him, you're getting a little too comfortable sitting behind me. You need to go on, get out there and do some singing on your own. And I was thinking to myself, what? He said it's as if Roberta Flack fired him, but come on. I'm thinking that's not the thing. I did a poll on our Facebook group, and I wanted to find out if you guys got a chance to go ahead and see if you all some of the favorite songs from Luther Vandross, because he's recorded and sold over 40 million records. If you've seen him ever in concert, he always did and performed very well. But here was some of the songs that I had people vote on, and I see we got 11 votes in. It's still going, but I had Superstar, Until You Come Back to Me. That didn't get. I think they got a vote. Never Too Much. That was one of the songs that was voted on. I don't know if you all remember Shine. That was kind of later in his career. Creepin' didn't get any love. A House Is Not a Home. A lot of folks remember that. Any Love, which I found out during the documentary, that song was a little autobiographical. I didn't realize that. And then I Dance with My Father. That's a lot of people voted for that as too. And then also Give Me the Reason, which was from a movie soundtrack, if I remember correctly. But he also had that on his record too. But guys, do you know what song won our poll of favorite songs recorded by Luther Vandross? Well, drum roll, please. It was A House Is Not a Home. And that got the most votes out of all the songs that I just listed. I don't know if you all have a favorite, but I know I have a favorite as well. Don Porter, who you see here, is the one who had access to a lot of the rehearsal footage as well as the actual the concerts, and to hear Lisa Fisher and the other background singers literally talk about how, and I want to call it precise, Luther was in training them and how he wanted things to be. I don't know if you've ever listened to a lot of the songs that Luther has recorded, but a lot of his music, you hear those backgrounds and it's like a sympathy. And I was really I want to call it entranced with some of his songs. Some of his songs got me through some rough, got me through some rough heartbreaks. And I was like, oh man, But I think congratulations to Don Porter for doing such a great job. A lot of the reviews that I've seen on this particular documentary has been phenomenal. I have never seen so many folks say, I really honestly did not know these things about Luther. I didn't know he recorded this song. And a lot of the songs that he was known for and got famous for was originally recorded by other people. Creeping was originally recorded by Stevie Wonder. Didn't know that. Anyone Who Had a Heart, I did know that one. That was Dionne Warwick. And House Is Not a Home, Dionne Warwick, didn't know that either. And then also one of the big surprises was a song, Superstar, Until You Come Back to Me. Don't you remember you told me you love me, baby? I think that's all I could do without getting in trouble. But that was a song, and the Carpenters originally recorded that song in the 70s. Had no clue at all that these songs were remakes, because think about it. When Luther would put his lips on a song, man, oh man, that was the bee's knees. What a wonderful way to celebrate. And I'm telling you, vocally, he was unmatched, unparalleled. I was discussing this on a morning show this morning regarding his, I call it influence. You guys remember the tap dancer and actor Gregory Hines? They recorded this beautiful song, There's Nothing Better Than Love. And I was thinking to myself, I didn't know Gregory Hines could sing. You get around Luther Vandross and you learn how to sing well. I don't know. But that was such a wonderful revelation with that. And one of the things that Luther struggled with, and a lot of folks talked about it throughout the documentary. Oh, it was very good to hear from Mariah Carey, Jamie Foxx. There was a lot of folks that were there in the documentary. So I really had a good time watching it. And of course, I think I see Coach Tony is in the building. Hey, what's up? I'm just talking about the Luther doc, and how you doing?
And trying to get it situated. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. I was going
What's up, Springer?
You missed my comedy routine that I did. I was showing a little bit of the comedy routine a little earlier. And so I talked about doing that and how nervous I was, but people were very, very funny. And then of course, Kevin Springer says, the baby oil bit was funny. And he says, thanks for sharing your work.
Well, you know what that means? When you said you was nervous. So I always tell my players, and I've always been told, that means you were ready. When you get ready to go do something, if you're not nervous, even the little slightest bit of nervousness, that means you're cocky. And if you're cocky, that means you're overzealous. You're probably not going to do it. But when you got a little nervousness in you, you tend to settle down and do awesome. So I'm sure you did well.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you so very much. I did a joke regarding, what was this? Puff. I didn't want to do the story on Puff Daddy. And then I joked around and said, hey, what was he doing? The Homeland Security came in and they confiscated all of these bottles of baby oil. You're a producer and a rap artist. Why do you have more baby oil than Walgreens, Walmart, and another store combined? And people thought that was funny. And so there was a couple of laughs and chuckles and stuff. And so I really had a good time doing that.
The answer to all of that is that he was trying to open up his own convenience store. Come on now.
Exactly. And Tina, our former guest from last year, is wishing us a happy new year. And of course, Mr. Springer is always saying, hey, what's up, Coach T, which is always wonderful. But did you get a chance? I wanted to also share with you that we had a poll of some of our favorite songs from Luther Vandross. I picked 8. Superstar, Till You Come Back to Me, Never Too Much, Shine, A House Is Not a Home, Any Love, Dance With My Father, and Give Me a Reason. So what came in number 3 was Dance With My Father. Next one was Never Too Much, but the song that got voted on the most was A House Is Not a Home. That was the song that won our official voting with our Interludes podcast. So what do you think about that? What's your favorite song from Luther?
None of them was on my list. Not one of them.
None of them.
Yeah. Hey,
Oh man.
that was just the DJ in me. But mine was the remix with Janet Jackson, "Best Things in Life." I told you I love that. And then
Right.
I love it because I second as my high school graduation, McFadden and Whitehead's remix, "Ain't No Stopping Us Now."
Okay.
It was on the documentary, and I loved it. How he showed how they practiced, and he sung that live. Of course, he changed a few of the words, but always been a big fan of that one particular track. And then he laid it down with some different things, and so it was real good.
Yeah, and this is a picture of Luther with David Bowie, and
Yep.
just a lot of the folks that he worked with just thought he was phenomenal to work with. He said David Bowie was commented and saying that this was one of the best vocalists I've worked with. And so, and here's the thing, the professionalism that I heard through the documentary, any singer or a person alive that said working with Luther was like working with a consummate professional, because remember, he started out in jingles. He started out in and singing background for some big artists. And did you know this, Coach? Bette Midler, who he sang background for, was the influence for doing shows big. That's what she would do, sequence on costumes and fairy tale type of storytelling. He did that as soon as he became popular as a solo artist, and it was influenced by Bette Midler. Did you know that?
I tell you what, I didn't know that, but I tell you what was funny to me was
What?
him and his two homeboys that formed a band. He was like, "Look, we got to call this the Green Gems, but we only gonna be able to wear green shoes." And they would run around trying to get these green steppers. And at that time, when his homeboy said shoes cost $23, you talking about 1960 something. So my mama ain't give me no $23 to go get no shoes. But he said Luther came to the house and his Spanish was so terrible. The mama said, "Here, boy, take this $25 so you quit talking to me."
Oh my gosh. Tina says she was blessed to meet him when she was a youngin'. What?
Oh, wow.
Tina
Okay.
know
How
everybody.
was that, Tim?
I know. What a wonderful thing to be able to meet Luther. And if you have ever seen
I
him
got a
in
chance to see him, Val, when he came to Chicago. I got a chance to see him at the Regal.
Oh, you did? Oh,
Yeah, I got
wonderful.
a chance to see
How
him at
was
the
his
Regal on
performance
79th
there?
Street, baby.
And how was
Great,
his
great.
performance there?
Oh, it was great live. I had never seen him, and again, it was so funny because, you know, now listening to him in real life, got some of his records, listening to the documentary, he never wanted to be an R&B person. It wasn't until he sang background for Roberta Flack and all that, and she kept saying, "You're standing in the background too much. Your voice is too wonderful." And then he jumped out. Of course, he performed his own band, the Vandrosses, and they did terrible. And but he just didn't stop, and he continued to do it. And then he went back singing background again. And then at 30 years old, he dropped that album. Boom, 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 boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom.
And that was his verse. That was his first single, and I think that's why the documentary is called Never Too Much.
Yeah,
Marcus Miller, who played bassline on that,
yep.
to hear his interview and talk about, well, oh, we're gonna do this, okay, and so he was just kind of rocking with it, like, okay, we're gonna go with that. And did you know the company that he ended up going with like turned him down several times?
Yeah, I mean, but again, it goes back with me and you were talking about valuing things I'm doing, working with the Rise, right? You're gonna get
Mhm.
those 3, 4, 5 no's. You just got to keep at it. And if you put yourself in the right space and they see you doing it, then they already know they've reached out and you've reached out to them. They're gonna want to get you first because they know that now somebody else is gonna be looking at you.
Exactly. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this was the struggle throughout his career, that when he became a solo artist, and I think he was with Epic Sony, now it's Sony Music, they
Yep.
did not promote him, and they weren't using the A&R budget, to promote him so he could be a crossover artist. They literally regulated him to R&B. Now think about this. Don't let anyone tell you this. And now they might have joked around in a song dissing Hammer, you crossed over and whatever, but it's everyone's dream, especially and in the recording industry to cross over to a larger and bigger market because pop, because here's the thing, you're going to sell more concert tickets and definitely more records. And to me, that didn't make sense for the record company to regulate him to just R&B, because you are lessening your sales by not expanding out to, you know, the pop artists. Like, why didn't you spend the amount of money for, if you spend it on David Bowie, all this money, why can't you spend that same amount of money on Luther?
Right. Now, and the crazy part about it, and now fast forward and look, Val, you don't have to worry about being pop anymore because all the genres go, right? And this is when I say facts, it's facts. Today's artists, they do concerts, but look who's in the audience. It's not our young African-American boys and girls. You know, we still as parents, we don't believe in giving our child no damn $300 to go to get no. You better wait till that album come out, or wait till the YouTube. You can see it on YouTube. You know, so unfortunately, it's going to be white America. They're the ones when they go. A perfect example. My favorite artist is Nas, right? And you know, you and I talked about that a few weeks ago when he came up on his 30th anniversary that I sent you. Well, look where he went: Belgium, Hungary, London, Paris, France. You know, Australia. That's not us. That's not us coming to those concerts. And they were packed out top to bottom. And when Luther was coming through this, I remember him sitting down and they asked him, was he frustrated? And he said, yeah, I'm frustrated. You know, and they said, why? He said, I'm frustrated because I got stuck in the same space. And it wasn't until I was able to open the door to get out of the space, because when Never Too Much bounced out, and he was 30, 31 years old, it took him 11, 12 years from 17 to 31, 32 to really get his act together. And he was trying to become a different kind of artist. And all of a sudden he hits the R&B, and then he flies up the charts. And then all of a sudden the women flock to him. And then he drops the House Is Not a Home. And when he dropped The House Is Not a Home, then they started thinking about he was a ballader, right? He's like, I didn't want R&B or to be a ballader. So now all of a sudden he's singing ballads, and he never left that space. And then all the women started flocking to him. Then his secret came out that he really wasn't looking at them.
Now, I think now here's a picture of part of the cast, and then of course Don Porter, who directed and gathered all of this wonderful, great footage, rehearsal footage, as well as concert performance footage, and then of course interview footage. I was just before you came on, we were talking about a lot of times he was interviewed about his weight. It would go up and it would go down. And they said one of the background singers that used to sing with him, Lisa Fisher, she said that, you know, when he would get stressed out, you know, he would eat. And with the thing of it is that it wasn't drugs. It wasn't, you know, any other type of addiction. It wasn't alcohol. It was food. And that was something that he struggled with. And I was thinking, why are they asking him about his weight? Like, if he's heavier than he normally is, or if he lost weight, oh, you look good. You know, if he gained the weight back, let it go. Why can't we talk about, you're here to talk about a new song or a new record, or you get ready to perform.
Well, you're not going to do that, Val. You know as well as I do. And let me give you one person's name with one letter. We don't ever talk about a Latin. Let me give you one name, and you're gonna be like, oh yeah, who fits that description that you just gave as a female?
Oprah Winfrey.
Bingo, Oprah. She's on that roller coaster, and then Oprah just got to the point. She said, "Forget it," and I don't care. But then she bought in Ozempic, right? Then she bought in the Weight Watchers. So when we're looking at that stuff and looking at Luther, I got to get you to watch this other documentary. It's called Behind the Scenes. It's a behind the scenes documentary of what you and I saw. And he said that even though he had the food addiction, it really wasn't the food. What was going on is that he would frustrate himself sometimes, for the simple fact of the matter was he felt for so many years he was singing to satisfy the public. but the songs and things he was putting out wasn't really the songs he wanted to sing. He was really wanting to be in a completely different lane. But every time he would make like an album with 12 songs on it, and he'll put one of those songs on it in the other lane he wanted to be in, the song flopped when he tried to release it. It didn't do well. But if he dropped another song on the album that he felt that was just okay, and he put an okay work into it, it would be a hit. Because A House Is a Home wasn't even the song on the album that he was trying to make a hit. It was a completely different song. And then they started, oh yeah, I forgot about it. Luther's a ballad. He sings ballads. So what's the best ballad on the album? And then when they put it out, the women went crazy. And you got to remember, at that time he was coming through, who was out here whining and crying? Who was the biggest artist that was crying?
Teddy Pendergrass.
Nope. Keith Sweat was crying. Teddy wasn't crying. Teddy wasn't crying. Teddy was yelling at you. Hey, take it off. Get the show. Teddy was, Teddy let you know.
You got what I want.
Yeah. Barry White. Barry would tell you the story, but Keith was out here, damn, and Keith was crying. And so it was at that 88, 89, once Luther got clicked and he got going, then he cut his own lane. The good thing about it is when they asked him, well, how were you able to get back into the pop lane where you wanted to be? And that goes back to what you and I were talking about. He started to get himself involved in movies. And the movies dictated the soundtracks. Best Things in Life for Free with Janet Jackson. Stuff like that, Ain't No Stopping Us Now. McFadden and White had the remix on the Car Wash. So he started getting involved in movies. Then he was able to release some of the music where he originally was trying to get to in the beginning, which is nuts. And like Tina just said, Clive Davis. Clive had a lot to do with it because at that time, he banked his money on who? Aretha Franklin, the Supremes, Diana Ross, the Jacksons. They were all hot. They were dying artists, right? Because we're getting to the late 80s, early going into the 90s. They were kind of dying out, but Clive was still making that money.
Right. There was a film that came out in '86 with Danny DeVito and I think Bette Midler called Ruthless People. Give me the reason one of the songs from that particular soundtrack. And I thought with that song, it had crossed over. But here's the thing, the song that did the best for him, and that's when he went over to J Records with Clive Davis and
right.
Tina. Oh my gosh, this is Tina. She says, I could take Keith Sweat music. Yeah, but I don't know what you could do with it. But Clive Davis was a gentleman who had him come over to when he was starting J Records in 2001. And so he did a song, Dance With My Father. He had been working on it for a long time. And when the song got released and was hitting, he ended up unfortunately having a stroke. Yes. He was not able to enjoy his first #1 pop hit that hit in 2003. And to me, that was heartbreaking since he had been kind of chasing that throughout his career with all of the wonderful music he left us with.
But you said it, Val. You hit the key you hit the nail on the head. You physically hit the nail on the head. It was late in his career. I mean, at that time, you were on the downside, right? That is being in Chicago, for those that don't know, and instead of you getting a concert at the United Center, you back on 79th at the Regal. You were on your way out the door. Not that the Regal was not great. It's like being in New York and you get a chance to perform at the Madison Square Garden, but they put you at the Apollo. Yeah, the Apollo's got the name, but it ain't gonna be the Madison Square Garden. You know what I mean? And at that time, he was going through some things, and when he went out, I want to know your comment on this. I remember Wendy Williams got into a big funk with Patti LaBelle because I didn't know that Patti LaBelle and Luther was almost like best friends, men and women. And Luther had, his whole career, they was trying to figure out and find out what Luther identified with, and he never said. He never physically stated out of his mouth. He just said, somebody asked him, was he bi? He said, what you mean bi? Like bi-coastal? Like from New York to California? You mean I got houses on both coasts? And it wasn't until he passed that then Patti LaBelle makes a big statement with Andy Cohen, who does all the Atlanta Housewives and stuff review. And He was like, Patty was like, he didn't want to disappoint his mother. So he kept it to himself. And then Wendy Williams comes out and she blasts Patty and says, you know, Patty, if you were his best friend, I would expect that to be from somebody like Andy Cohen, who don't know the man, who just make up something. But if you're his best friend, you're supposed to take that to the grave like he did. So I don't know your thoughts about that, but you know.
Yeah, and that's been the conversation, is that Patti LaBelle was made out to be the villain of this particular documentary because they caught what she said to Cohen. And, you know, I felt that she kind of stated it, you know, and as a matter of fact, like I don't really want to talk about it. But here's the thing. If you know, and think, and you know, people are able to come out and be whatever they want to be, bi, poly, whatever it is. You almost think I'm talking about a science class, but you can do that today. But back in the 70s and 80s, that was just frowned upon. And
homophobic. He had a lot of homophobic people.
And he had his vast majority of his bread and butter was female supporters. People that bought his records were folks like my mom, my aunties, all of these folks. And it took them here, his friends and the niece of Luther Vandross, she's in yellow. He finally got a star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in 2014. Yep. And now 10 years later, this documentary comes out, which kind of brings everything nicely together. Really, I see Marcus Miller is in there, and then the other folks that work with him. You know, this is really, really, really important. And I'm grateful that a documentary like this from Don Porter was done, because it broke down just all of the struggles that he went through. And here's the thing, I'm always appreciative of all of whatever stress an artist that I love went through to bring me such great music.
Yeah, but you know, the only thing about it, Val, that makes me upset on these documentaries. You just said it. Why do we got to wait until their flowers? They pushing up daisies already, you know?
I know.
I would love to get these people that like somebody right now, you know, they should be working on Oprah Winfrey's documentary right now, and get them to while Oprah's still chilling, kicking it, you know, working on Spike Lee, what he did, masterful, working on Denzel Washington. We always wait until after the fact of the matter, and then this becomes a topic of conversation. You know, Luther, me as a house DJ, I love everything that Luther dropped house music wise. And I know a lot of people listening tonight probably don't even know some of the house tracks he had. But, you know, he, to me, embellished the situation where he was around two major pop artists at that time. And he was in the middle and still cut his own lane, because he had Michael Jackson to the left, he had Prince to the right. And he still was able to cut his lane. And he had Wine and Keith Sweat behind him, and he still was able to cut his lane. You know, and it just got to me. And like you said, he couldn't go out in that early 80s, even early 90s, and say, hey, I'm on the other side of the tracks, I'm gay. He couldn't do it because it was the homophobic gen. And at that time, it was okay or legal, so to speak, in the United States at that time to talk about them. So if you put yourself out there, people called you crazy, crazy names without saying it today, and they put it on wax, put it on music. The only difference is there wasn't social media, so you couldn't drag that person who said something but a day or two, because you didn't know it unless you what, Val? Unless you were listening to VH1, right? MTV, right? Or that's my boy Wolfman Jack on Friday, Saturday night. That played this stuff, and then you got up on Saturday mornings and nobody left. Back in the day, kids, we didn't have that. So you jumped on the TV at 11 o'clock, you watched Soul Train. Everybody was on that. So there were things that had to occur in order to make his music what it was. And, you know, I just hate the fact of the matter that we waited a decade to give him his flowers.
I know. And here's the thing. I think what's wonderful for me, what's wonderful about documentaries like Never Too Much is that you get a chance to learn a little bit about the struggle that this talented artist went through. And then I keep forgetting, I might know all of his music, but there are folks, Tony, that are much younger than both you and I that have never heard of A House Is Not a Home, that have never heard of Give Me the Reason, that have never heard Never Too Much until they watch this documentary. And of course, this is going to boom sales. I think Sony did another re-release of all of his music digitally again on Spotify as well as Apple Music. So it's like the younger masses will get a chance to hear his velvet smooth voice. I feel like he could just sing A B C D E D.
Let me tell you something. Let me tell you something.
H I J K L M
Let me
N
tell
O
you something.
P.
Y'all may or may not be able to do it. I love what Val just said, but I don't care nothing about that digital stuff. If you into the music, you really into the music, go buy the vinyl. I keep telling you guys, vinyl sales went over $500 million the last 18 months. And they're predicted to be over $1 billion industry in the next 2 to 3 years. Vinyl is making a major comeback. So for those that don't have a record player, a way to play the music or whatever, that's fine. Go buy the album on vinyl. Do you understand me? When you see this right here that you're looking right there, Luther, Never Too Much, when they do the remastered, go get it. Don't open it up. They give you a funny thing. Won't even bring the track up, won't say nothing. Val and I did a behind the scenes music breakdown of a particular track that she was talking about with Jay-Z on some other stuff. And I happen to have the track in vinyl. And Val was like, you should know. I said, no, I don't, Val, because I never opened it up. And I showed her the track, never opened up, still in plastic. Why? Because when I bought it on the label on my particular album, it told me it was a limited copy. And I bought the first one of 1,000 copies. So I know within the next 8, 9, 10 years, even though that this person is doing what they're doing, that this album is going to be worth some money to me. Now, don't get me wrong. We're not talking about $1 million, $100,000, but I'm saying you buy a piece of vinyl for $8, $9, $10, $20, $30, and then it goes for $400 or $500. You made a great jump. That's a big album. If you can buy an album for $400 or $500, that's a huge artist.
I know. And like I said, I think it now this is what I saw in the chat from Tina. I think she's exactly why.
Wow,
I have vinyls that are not open. She has not opened some of her vinyls, so because she knows the worth of that. And Nippy says, I didn't know who he was and was able to speak well, but she misses him. And of course,
I love that name. First
said,
of all, about Nippy Al. I love that.
I have an unopened Nesty. You do? Okay. She's cracking me up here. But yeah, like I said, this is Beatles. She has an unopened Beatles record.
Oh man, you got an unopened Beatles. You got classic. You know, and let me tell you something. And I'm gonna top you on that one. Well, I can't top you because it's the Beatles, Tina, but I'm gonna give you one right beside. I got an unopened Bohemian Rhapsody, Queen, the double album. And both my albums are gold. So the album was printed on a yellow album format, unopened on Queen. So
wow. You have that at the crib? That's just hanging out in your crib, just not
hanging out in my stash of albums. You know, that's one of I pick it up and I don't have to worry about it, Val, because as you said a moment ago, I can get the same. So we're gonna walk this back for those guys that need to understand music. So me and Val, we DJ. So of course I got stuff on digital, and that's out of Serato because I got a DJ stuff and I downloaded on my music. So I don't need to open up these albums that I know that are going to be classics and worth money. Why? Because I got a program in my Serato that I can download the remastered version, same version, put it in my DJ booth, and I got it on computer. So I don't have to open the album up because I can open my computer up and put my Bluetooth speaker on and listen to it.
Wow. So I like that.
So they just give y'all a little twist on doing some things. Go get these albums like Tina just got and some things of that nature. See the album. Then there's a thing that's called there's a website called Value My Album. Value My Album. And you can go to that website, punch in the search bar, tell them what album you got, and they'll let you know how much the album is and what's the probability of how much it'll be. It's no different than Val buying a back in the day, like you buy from Fleer, like Michael Jordan rookie cards, right? And it tells you that this Jordan rookie card in the next decade could be worth $1,000, in 20 years worth $5,000, in 30 years possibly $1 million. You know, and I'm sitting on Michael Jordan cards back from the late 80s, early 90s myself. So
Wow.
those are the type of things that you look at. And then some of these albums, as everyone listening, as you teach your kids, your nieces, your nephew, like I think my granddaughter, Scout, love her to death. She's going to have that mindset. And these are things that, as I get her to listen to this music, that these are classic music of mine that was handed down to me from my uncle that I'm playing, that I'm going to be able to hand them down to her. Because then I'll keep that going. And if I can teach her to do that and let her know, you take that and hand this down to your kid, you know, or your sister, or your little cousin, someone who can respect the art of what it is. And Luther is one of those guys you have to respect the art.
Have to. And Tina's clowning in the chat. She's saying she's got 100 mint condition unopened vinyls from her mom, which is
that's tight.
That's real tight. If you got
all the difference on that, Tina, that you ain't no DJ like me and Val, but when you DJ, you open them up.
So you can hear the fresh crackle of
yeah,
the
you know, you want to hear that. You want to
hear that.
Yeah,
you're not going to hear that digitally. Oh my gosh, which is she got Millie Jackson.
I know. Hey, Tina, I had to say it. I already know. I got Millie Jackson. I had to say it. Come on now, don't play with me.
Oh my God. So Never Too Much. It's the documentary. It's available streaming right now on CNN and also on Hulu. You got to pay a little bit more with your Hulu subscription. But I wanted to mention this. We are both North Central alumnus. And over the weekend, a fun thing happened. And what was that, Coach Tony? I know we don't normally do sports, but I wanted to have you talk about that.
We got to shout it out. And I've got Coach getting up on the Pull Up podcast with me soon. But I got to give big shout out to someone who was just a kid. Dad was a good friend of mine, took me through, wanted him to get through school. Rick Spencer, his son is Brad Spencer, who is now the head coach at North Central College in Naperville, just outside of Chicago. He, over his tenure right now, 3-4 years as the head coach, is already over 100 wins and like 7 to 8 less than 10 losses, and 2 national championships, including this year. So has to go off. And what I love about it, more importantly, Val, as I was telling you, that I got a kid, and give him a big shout out, Kyler Green. He is here from Nashville, Tennessee. Him and his mother sat with me, took me out to dinner, and they had several schools on their list that they were trying to choose from. And I sold him on going. And he didn't know if he wanted to go. And last year as a freshman, he was trying to get everything squared away and know exactly what and how he wanted to do it and figure it all out. And then I said, hey, man, you don't always get the opportunity to play and be on the field as a freshman. You got to work it out. And now look at him, Val. He's a national champion as a sophomore, got a chance to get on the field, on the TV. And that's something you can't take away. And they bringing everybody back because they're young. They may win another ring next year or the year after next. And that's something that you can't take away. So now he goes to school and he's a national champion for life.
That's amazing. That is amazing. And of course, this is going to be a great thing for our school and just a great thing, period. And of course, Coach Tony, because he's the person that does what he does, we'll be talking about what he's got coming up next week on the Pull Up Podcast show. But of course, I meant to mention this a little bit earlier. A DJ Saved My Life. It is the book by your girl here, Val The Voice Johnson. It's available on purelighthouse.media.net. Go ahead and scan the QR code or visit purelighthouse.media.net for the merch as well as the ebook. And of course, the printed copies are coming this year. So excited about that. And of course, Coach Tony Thompson, on to next week. Who's coming out? What's happening with you?
Let me tell you, let me make one last comment before I say, definitely, Tina, I got that Chronic album, Dr. Dre, the last one. Like I said, I ain't made an album in 30 years, but still, the Chronic was my last one. Kaboom, got that one. But next week, my girl right here. I know I asked you guys to tune in last night, and thank you. It was a great show. Me and Russi Brown been on the phone, cutting it up throughout the day today, Val. She absolutely loved it. So glad. And as you said, if you listened last night, was the first thing she said. Thank you for being so persistent. Because I know I've been chasing her for months like I did Bill Cartwright. And this would happen when you get persistence. Because of that, my girl's coming on next week, Shelley Russi. She's connected to Russi Brown. And you're about to hear the other side of the ball now. You're about to hear from a sports agent who's in the NBA. And it's not very many women, not the WNBA, but this is the woman who handles the men in the NBA negotiating their contracts and doing things. As a matter of fact, Val, she was so busy last night, she watched a podcast and had the basketball game on TV because one of her clients was playing. So that's how much she's locked in. So I cannot wait to talk to her next week. It's going to be absolutely awesome. So again, I'll tell everybody, stop trying to meet me there. You need to beat me there.
The Pull Up Podcast Show every Monday. We're back strong as we come up on your year anniversary, which is really exciting. And of course, Interludes Extra presents Find Your Voice on Patreon. Join our community via patreon.com/interludes. And of course, you'll see the full comedy routine on Patreon. That's where that's going to be hanging out at. So you guys go ahead and check it out there. I'll be uploading that on tonight, but I'm excited that you guys are joining us here on another edition of Interlude Section Presents Talk on Tuesdays. Man, we've had a good time. And of course, Tina hasn't seen the documentary, so I didn't want to tell too much, but anyone that has not seen the Luther Vandross documentary, please go out and support it and check it out. If you're a fan of music like we are, me and him, you'll love the documentary.
And Val, to give you one more, it makes you do this in sequence. Watch the documentary, then go to YouTube and type in the after documentary story. It's called the after documentary story, and it talks about the documentary, but the things that were left out of the documentary that they didn't want to talk about. And they put it up, they'll come to YouTube, Val. They don't care. They don't give a damn. They're just gonna put everything out there. So go check that piece out. But again, I told Val, and I'm gonna give it to you as well. If you are a Luther Vandross lover, go to YouTube and type in Luther Vandross mixtape. I'm sorry, Luther Vandross house music mixtape. Luther Vandross house music mixtape is about 40 minutes long. And they got the best of the best jams in a house music format. And it's one to sit around the house, throw it on, take your vacuum cleaner while you're vacuuming, washing dishes, washing clothes on the weekend. But it's definitely one to listen to.
Oh, man. Like I said, I think another one of my favorites from Luther Vandross was, oh, yeah.
All right. Come on now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was a jam.
Well, all right.
That was a cut. Hey,
that bass
everybody's having a party. Come on, man.
It's gonna be a while till you see him again. Boom, boom, boom.
Boom, boom, boom.
Oh, bad boy.
hey, I'll tell you, that was I'm telling you, that was an error. And closing note for me was that Luther was that artist to me that was able to kind of get you away from the Michael Jackson and Prince scene. And you had an artist in the middle that had cut his own lane, but his music was really, really good. And let me tell you something. Again, I love it. I love all these new kids, but man, Nothing's gonna beat growing up in the 80s and 90s. Nothing.
Nothing will compare to that at all. And like I said, if you haven't seen the documentary, please go ahead and check it out, because like I said, I am a fan. And for the folks that have never heard a Luther Vandross song, to see and hear and understand all that he went through to get to deliver that to us, I say it is well worth you checking it out and doing your thing. So I'm just saying, we are so excited. Two thumbs up majorly. That's what I'm talking about. But of course, we'll see you guys again on next week, and we'll be doing our thing. And so, of course, as my word and your word, what you say?
Peace.